what were some of the inner challenges that you had to deal with through all this process in yourself, such as you mentioned one, not putting up with dictatorships and forcing athletes to do shit that you just knew was dumb anyhow. What are some of the other battles you had to come up with? Did you have issues like you talked about the nutrition, someone saying, don't ever give me that shit again or I'll kill you? Did you have hard times, for example, getting athletes to realize that eating and sleeping and stabilizer exercises and not pushing yourself till you're dead, the whole no pain, no gain concept? What are some of the other challenges that you really had to work through to get people moving in the same direction and to get the level of results that you wanted to get for them?
Yeah, you know what, I did, but not as much as some people would think if we're talking about the players, because at the end of the day, I was very lucky that that the first team that I came into to start working with, we had a fantastic group of guys. I think we had, my first year there, we had seven or maybe 8 guys that either had been a captain of another team or went on to be the captain of another team after they left us. So we had a lot of guys that had leadership qualities, and they bought into the concept that you know what, at the end of the day, I just want to make you healthier,
right.
which is a great sell. I had a lot more difficulty with the coaching staff. Not so much the first coaching staff. I worked for a guy by the name of Pat Quinn, who's no longer here with us. He's passed away, but he was a legend in the business, incredible guy that gave me the freedom to do what I wanted. But I did have difficulty sometimes with coaches, and again, breaking down that idea. But instead of punishing them, instead of it being an us versus them mentality,
yeah,
we need to realize that we're all in this together. And that was always challenging for me, and I'm getting better at that. But that was a tough thing for me early on. But with the athletes, not so much. That's not to say I haven't had. There have been lots of guys along the way that didn't buy in
mm-hmm.
or had their own way of doing things. But that was never a major problem for me. It was more to do with coaching, management, people like that.
So if you look back on your career now, it's obviously very successful, not only as a strength and conditioning coach, but as a formulator of health and performance products and a businessman. Though you've told me that you're the formulator, you're not really the guy marketing and selling, but you still obviously have to have some business sense. You run a business. You run considerably the most successful strength and conditioning business in Canada.
Per square foot, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I mean, Matt's referring to the fact that his gym is small, but he really likes that intimate atmosphere. And even though his gym is small, he does have a whole entire Olympic track, a football field, and a hockey arena right there. Walk out of the gym and into the hockey arena.
Which helps.
Yeah. So if you were to say, okay, if I had to summarize the nuggets, the gems, and write them down on a piece of paper to say to a young strength coach, these are the things you need to know, that I had to travel a lot of miles and speak to a lot of great experts and work to refine, so that here's the formula, like A squared plus B squared is C squared. If you burn yourself out, you burn yourself out. What would be, if Matt had his sort of pinnacle principles of training that you could pass on to the athletes listening, or the conditioning coaches, the therapists, the doctors, where would you say that these are some of the rules that you need to know? Because if you don't know, ignorance is not bliss, and if you break these rules, you're probably going to shorten your career or the athlete's career.
Well, I will say this. I have a copy of How to Eat, Move, and Be Healthy within arm's reach of every place I spend any significant amount of time. There's one on my desk at work. There's one on my desk at home. There's one next to the dining room table where I like to do work at home. It's always within arm's reach, and every single one of my professional athlete clients in the NBA, the NFL, the NHL, I've purchased for each of them a copy of that book. So, and the cool thing I like about it, and that's not just a plug for the book, because you would say the same thing, is that you've told, and I've heard you say this before, like, you know, my hourly consulting fee is you know, it's exorbitant, it's very high.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just buy this book and do everything that's in the book, that's probably going to clear up 95% of your problems.
Yes, yeah.
If you just actually do it. So I mean, that would be one piece of advice I would absolutely say. But you know, I think that I've been lucky. I've had some. You know, I had one professional athlete client that's just retiring this year, who's been a client for this will be 18 years, 17 years. You know, I've got an executive client, not a professional athlete. He's a guy who's run a very successful, hugely successful company in my country. He's been awarded the Order of Canada, which is a very big deal in our country. He's been a client for 20 years.
Wow.
You know, so if you knew that this new client that you're meeting tomorrow, or this new patient that you're meeting tomorrow, whatever your business is, if you knew they were going to be your client for the next 20 years, would you conduct your business any differently? Would you treat them any differently? Would you behave differently? So I think that any of the choices that I've made in terms of how I should train my athletes, the recommendations or advice that I give them in terms of their nutrition and lifestyle, whatever, if I always just remember that, if I always just do what's best for them as a person,
yes,
what's going to be the best thing for them to keep them healthy and happy, inevitably that works out great for my business. And the really challenging and difficult thing is that I've had clients especially early on, when money was tight and I'm living paycheck to paycheck, I've turned clients away that I knew it wasn't going to be a good fit, which is a scary proposition.
It is, but that's being honest.
And you know what? In one client in particular, I remember giving them a check back 2 weeks into the process because they weren't ready for this. And it didn't go over well, as you can imagine. They were very insulted, but you know, a year and a half later, this guy came back and he's been a client for 7 years since. So
that's great. I've had many cases like that.
I'm sure you have, but I think, you know, that's something again that I think I've learned from you, is that idea of having a word that gets thrown around too often, holistic, but taking a holistic approach and making sure that I put together a program for each of my clients that I really believe is the best thing for them.
Yes.
Based on the goals that they've told me, based on my intuition of what I think that is best for them. But based on that, I don't think you can ever go wrong. Mm-hmm. I really believe that. So I think, play the long game, you know, have that long game in mind.
Yeah, I'm sure you've run into the issue where athletes and people come in and they've read or seen someone doing something stupid in the gym, which we call a fad. Yeah. And they're like, I want you to do this, I want you to do this. So have you run into that over and over again?
I have, but I'm at the point now in my career, so I have a very different business model. I don't accept clients per hour or per session or per day or per week. It's like, you know, it's kind of like going to Club Med, except I tell you what you're going to do every day.
Yeah. You
don't decide if you want to play volleyball. I'm going to tell you if we're playing volleyball or for you know, playing shuffleboard. So
right.
I think it's good, because I think at least I've established that myself now, to say, okay, I'm like a fiduciary in the financial world, but a fiduciary for their health, where I would say, if we are both under the assumption that I have your best interests at heart,
yeah,
I care about you and I want what's best for you,
yeah,
and you've shared with me your goals and I understand what those goals are. Mm-hmm. So if we can move forward with that understanding, then I'm just going to do what I think is best, and you just kind of have to buy in. And if you don't, this really isn't going to work. Which is not to say, you know, I think that, you know, if you look, like, it's not a dictatorship. It's also not a democracy. It's an enlightened despotism.
Well, it's
you know. So I'm going to. I ultimately, at the end of the day, you're paying me for a reason, because, you know, it's my responsibility is to get the result. You have to trust that I have your best interests at heart. I always welcome your feedback.
Yeah.
I'm always interested, but we're going to do it the way that I think is best.
Well, you know, what you're describing is sort of a marriage between the concept of a coach and a mentor. Coach just says, do these exercises, hold your hockey stick that way, don't do that. But a mentor, you know, for example, Customato, if you remember Mike Tyson's story, Mike Tyson was a lost kid, but Customato saw potential in him, but he became someone who helped him navigate his inner world and to realize that his pain and his anger could work against him. And lo and behold, when Customato died and he lost him, then the wheels went off, because Customato wasn't just a coach, he was a mentor for him. And it really appears to me from being around you, seeing what's going on, and seeing how these athletes relate to you, that you've married mentorship, life mentorship, with coaching. And that's why there's the sort of the, you know, there's somewhat of a father archetype. I know what you're supposed to be doing because I've been doing this my whole career, and as much as you think you know, you don't really know what you're talking about. That's why you're here. So let's talk about what it is that you want to do, and I'll see if we can find any logic or rationale in that.
Absolutely. And that, you know what, and that, all that being said, that's not to say that from time to time my athletes do come in and share with me something that they saw someone else do or their coach on their team showed them, and many times they show me some great ideas, and then it's my job to say, okay, you know what, that's actually a great idea, a great exercise, great plan, great supplement, great whatever. Can I show you where I think it would fit best into what we're doing?
Yes.
Which maybe is not today.
Right.
But, or, you know, from time to time they'll bring it in and it's something I've never seen before. Well, that's great. Now I'm going to go research it and find out, because I want to make sure I'm staying current. I want to make sure that I know what it is. And every once in a while, you know, we completely change the way that we're doing things because one of my athletes showed me something that they learned from someone else, which is better than what we're doing. Yeah. So now we're doing that. But we have a good enough relationship that before they will demand, I want to do A, B, or C, they'll bring it to me and say, hey, I've seen this. It's intriguing to me. I think I want to do it. Can you research it and find out if and when it would be appropriate for us to do that?
So I think one of the beautiful things that you're highlighting that's also an important life skill is that the teacher, to be successful, must always remain a student.
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you don't have any students, you won't be a teacher for very long. You need students in the class. It's a symbiotic relationship to me, in that I can't be a coach unless I have athletes.
Yes.
Right? They're not going to be as successful without my help, but I won't be successful at all without them. So we need each other. Yeah. I wish I could be out on the field playing, but I can't. Yeah. So this is the next best thing. So I want to make sure that I'm helping them and you know that I'm doing right by them. But in order to do that, they need to cooperate with me. We need to work together.
Well, what I mean though is that, and I know you've met, I won't name any names, but both of you. Both me and you know of someone that was quite famous that functioned this way, and that is, I know more than you, shut the fuck up, do what I tell you to do, or get the hell out of here, you pot-smoking hippie. So I think you know who that is. But that's a teacher that has not remained a student. That's
no, absolutely.
That's the Donald Trump method of ruling. Build a wall around anybody that disagrees with you and pretend they don't exist. But what I'm saying is that you've done a very good job of, as a teacher, being open to learning even from your athletes or the next door neighbor or some book on herbology or wherever something useful comes, you find a way to look at it honestly and integrate it. And I think that's an absolutely essential quality if you want to stay in the game a long time, because you know, as technology moves and as other strength coaches or professionals evolve, if we get to the point where we think we know everything, then we just become a barnacle, and next thing you know, we're outdated and we're shelved.
I really truly believe that, you know, if you asked about advice for young coaches and people starting out, the most important quality you could have to be successful in this business is humility. Yeah. And I think part of that is, when I started out, I was exposed to guys like you, Mauro Di Pasquale, Eric Serrano, Ken Kanakin. I used to hang out with Rory. Rory and I would sit every day at the track center with Charlie Francis for about 2 or 3 years. That was a regular day for me. Yeah. That was regular stuff. So I've known since day one. I've seen greatness firsthand. Yes. You know, and I've stood beside the platform at the London Olympics in the weightlifting championship. I've been at World Powerlifting Championships. I know where I am in the pecking order. I'm way down low. So I've always remained humble because I've seen greatness. Yeah. And I think it always reminds me that I can't know it all. You and I have been hanging out for the last 2 days here. I feel like I don't know what the hell I'm doing anymore. I feel like I'm back at square one.
That wasn't because I intended that by any means.
But you know what I mean? But I think having that humility to realize I don't know. I don't know it all, and I can't know it all. But
neither can I.
But what I can do is for my players, I can go and gather as much information as I can, synthesize it, and deliver it to them in a way that's going to help them be better. And just as I expect them to constantly be working at getting stronger and faster, I need to constantly be working at getting better at what I do as a coach.
Yeah.